Hello Nigerians, it's nice to have you join us on today's edition of our Public Enlightenment program on tax administration in Ogun State. It is called IRS Digest. My name is Adeshino Anidube. I bring you good tidings on behalf of the Ogun State government as ably represented by the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service. The government of Ogun State appreciates all that you've been able to do for it towards ensuring that the needed resources are available for the government to deliver the more on its campaign promises. On the program today, we have so many packages for you, but one important one that we shall be bringing to you is such that has to do with the sensitization workshop of taxpayers' identification number, which the Joint Tax Board in the Federal Republic of Nigeria is facilitating. Recently, those who are co-stakeholders in tax administration as a process in Nigeria converged on Ogun State, and the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, on behalf of the Ogun State government, hosted everyone to a one-day sensitization workshop, which is essentially to provide a much-needed education for Nigerians as far as the taxpayer identification number, TIN, is concerned. What you need to know, what I need to know, what every taxpayer in Nigeria needs to know about the taxpayer identification number. This will be the essential package we have for you on today's edition of the program. Again, you're welcome to IRS Digest on OGTV.
Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, IRS ló sọ pé ẹ̀sánwó ìlú pay your taxes promptly. Ojúṣe wa ni wípé ojúṣe gbogbo wa ní fúnjọba ká lè jàǹfààní ìjọba àwarawa. Ètò ìlera tó jọjú, ètò ẹ̀kọ́ tó yarantí, education gbogbo ọ̀nà tó dùn rìn o. Electrification for all and sundry. All these and many more la jẹ́ sí wa. Ìlú wa lè darí má lè lọ fáwọn olókòwò pay your taxes kí ìlú wa lè tẹ̀síwájú.
Let's join hands in building a world of comfort in Ogun State. Pay your taxes and levies today. It pays to do so.
Titi, did you know your neighbor lost his case in court because his land documents were not accepted as evidence?
What happened?
The documents had no official stamp of government, and in reality, they were like ordinary pieces of paper, as no stamp duty was paid on them.
Stamp duty? What is stamp duty?
Stamp duty is the fee you pay to the government to obtain legal recognition for your land documents and other contract agreements.
Is that so?
Yes. Stamp duty gives legal recognition for your land documents and other contract agreements. It also assures continuous validity for those documents. You risk the payment of a fine, in addition to the payment of all unpaid duties if you default.
I am going straight to IRS Ogun State to access the stamp duty on my own document for payment.
Be wise. Ensure that necessary duties are paid on your land documents and other contract agreements. It is in your best interest.
Of course, we always say that it's in your best interest to support the government of Ogun State to actually make the state a better place for all of us as far as the rebuilding mission of the Senator Ibekunle Amosun-led administration is concerned. We did tell you that we shall be bringing you a package on today's edition of the program, which has to do with the Joint Tax Board facilitated taxpayer identification number. Of course, across the state of the Federation, sensitization workshops are being held, and so it was the turn of Ogun State to actually play host to major stakeholders in the issue of tax payment. And so Ogun State, the headquarters of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, was the venue. The governor of Ogun State also joined to encourage tax administrators in Nigeria to facilitate a process that will make it easier for taxpayers in any part of Nigeria to access their accounts as far as tax payment is concerned via a platform known as the Taxpayer Identification Number Project. Let's now join the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service and indeed the government of Ogun State as they hosted tax administrators in Nigeria. Tax administration in Nigeria had been faced with varied issues and challenges ranging from poor identification, registration and compliance of taxpayers to a whole lot of other issues. All efforts aimed at identifying and registering all taxable Nigerians to provide a more sustainable platform for revenue generation had largely been unsuccessful until of late, when the body of tax authorities in Nigeria, known as the Joint Tax Board, decided to take the bull by the horns. JTB, a national body created by the defunct Tax Management Act of 1961, now the Personal Income Tax Cap P8 LFN 2004, is saddled with the responsibility of ensuring collaboration in the issuance and administration of Tax Identification Number (TIN) to all taxable entities. Over the years, the Joint Tax Board has contributed to the advancement of tax administration in Nigeria, and to facilitate the implementation of the Taxpayer Identification Number program. Therefore, the Joint Tax Board initiated a process known as the State Sensitization Workshop to create a great level of awareness among the populace for the TIN program. The Tax Identification Number program, otherwise called TIN or TIN, is already on ground in a number of states in Nigeria. Having been held in other states of the Federation, it was then the turn of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, Ogun IRS, to host the State Sensitization Workshop with the full support of the state government.
It is great to have you here with us, and I am indeed grateful to God for this day, for a lot of reasons and for everything. When TIN, Tax Identification Number, was envisioned, it looked like a rather daunting task, but the enthusiasm for the concept was an encouraging measure of abundance. I cannot but remember the saying which says, never look back unless you want to go that way. No one has ever looked back since. Such was the kind of determination, endeavor, and enterprise that midwifed the advent of TIN. I acknowledge and salute everyone who has played a part. Those that are present with us and those who for various reasons are not. I must acknowledge especially the support and the buy-in of His Excellency, Senator Ibikun Amosun, the Executive Governor of Ogun State, who approved the payment of the long outstanding 90 million naira counterpart funding of TIN by it was outstanding before His Excellency assumed office. We would not have been in a position to host this program without having first made this payment. Thank you, Your Excellency. Our rating as a revenue authority has soared greatly in view of your massive input and support. The Tax Identification Number program has three key objectives. They are as follows: to create a harmonized electronic taxpayer identification and registration system consisting of reliable and centralized information on all taxpayers in the country to aid effective tax administration processes, to automate tax registration activities for all levels of government and thus facilitate a sustainable platform for revenue generation. This will widen the tax base through the registration of all eligible taxpayers to enhance greater compliance, proper tracking, and effective collection processes. Number 3, to have a reliable and centralized taxpayer database to provide for sharing of information among tax authorities and eliminate tax errors such as multiple registration and double taxation. It is for our collective well-being and to ensure that we are all involved. In any event, the era of tax evasion is fast becoming extinct. It is the dawn of a new era, and I am really pleased to welcome you into the same.
The TIN program also seeks to provide data required by law to create a harmonized taxpayer identification platform for internally generated revenue automation and taxpayer clearance certificates. It is against this backdrop that the Ogun State Commissioner for Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, provided further insight into the TIN program and the efforts of the Ogun State government in tax administration, among others.
The TIN project is an extremely important project to us. Any project that allows us to bring more of our residents, more of our workers into the tax net of Ogun State is a very welcome project. We stand to gain a lot from this TIN project. Already, with what we've been doing, we've been able to add over 50,000 new taxpayers into the tax net, especially from the border areas. And we are about to embark on our enumeration project, which will also bring more taxpayers into the tax net. So we see this as helping us towards our ultimate goal of getting more people to partner in the progress that we in Ogun State are making across many areas of service and infrastructure. I want to assure the Joint Tax Board that we are fully behind the project and will give every necessary support to make sure it's successful. So please, all those of you that are here today, let us start. Let's be the first people to register. Let's get our TIN numbers and let's get this process started.
The gathering, which has both operators within the formal and informal sectors in attendance, was duly taken through the essence of the TIN program by the Executive Secretary of the Joint Tax Board, ably represented by the TIN Project Manager, Oduba, who described the taxpayer identification number as a 10-digit number that is unique to each identified taxpayer in the Federation.
The Joint Tax Board, like it was mentioned by the chairman, had thought it wise that we should have unique taxpayer identification number for every taxable entity, whether a company, whether enterprise, whether individual. And that has to cut across the entire country, such that once you register, you don't have to register anywhere else. Before now, Ogun State, for example, had its own taxpayer identification number. Lagos had theirs. Other states also had theirs. As a taxpayer, you needed to register in every state to be able to transact taxation business in that state. The Joint Tax Board tax identification number will eliminate that multiple registration across tax authorities. All you need to do is to present yourself to any of the tax authorities and register and obtain your unique tax identification number. That number will be available for you to use across all the tax authorities, and you don't have to re-register again. Particularly for individuals, we are capturing your 10 fingerprints, and that is unique to you. If you have registered here already in Ogun State, you would not be able to register anywhere else. Also, we have identified that it is possible for you to live elsewhere and be able to register somewhere else. What we are using to assign you to a tax authority is your residential address. Because the primary reason is for us to be able to implement PITA, personal income tax, as it were, based on residency rule. And I think one of the states that I believe very sincerely will benefit most from this Joint Tax Board initiative will be Ogun State. All those states having border relationship with states like Lagos or FCT will really benefit from this exercise, because there are so many of us who live in Ogun State and are working in Lagos State. When we have the tax identification numbers, most of the conflicts today, wherein somebody is claiming I live here or I live there, once you have been registered and your residential address stays where you are, and your number has been given to your employer to deduct, once that deduction has been made based on your tax identification number, the monies will be remitted to the appropriate tax authority. It doesn't really matter where you are working at that point in time, because of the exigencies of accommodations around here. Now, what we are going to also achieve is that every state is able to register its taxpayers. But over and above the registration exercise, we've tried to bring in some other value additions onto the project, so that we encourage states, if properties, for example, are being registered, they should populate the database on the system, so that assessment eventually will be more scientific than the way it is today. If you have all the sources of income and assets of a taxpayer, it will be easier to raise a proper assessment for that taxpayer. Those are some of the values that we also think tax identification number registration platform of the JTB should help the states. We also believe that a lot will be achieved by way of eliminating double taxation, because we can capture assessments and payments that were made over a period of time for each taxpayer. These are facilities which are beyond the normal registration process. We expect that every state, as soon as payments are made or assessments are raised, they will also obtain the taxpayer information on the system so that it can help all of us. And I believe all of us will greatly benefit from that. For the taxpayers, it will help you to register. Register in Ogun where you are living so that you can support the developmental efforts of Ogun State as well, so that your taxes don't go to wrong tax authorities, particularly like withholding tax. Most registrars are not in Ogun State. The monies deducted by the registrars don't come here to Ogun State, even though the Ogun State indigenes are the investors.
He, however, appreciated both the Ogun State government and the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service for the many initiatives they have put in place at liberalizing tax collection and tax administration process in the state. To the governor of Ogun State, Senator Ibekunle Amosun, with more money in the hands of government, the citizenry gains a whole lot more. The TIN program, the governor said, would help harmonize tax administration process in the country, maintaining, however, that Ogun State had been proactive with its revenue generation process and tax administration. The TIN program, the governor said, would help harmonize tax administration process in the country, maintaining, however, that Ogun State had been proactive with its revenue generation and tax administration processes.
The most important office, really, the most important department of government is the one that is charged with the responsibility of collecting taxes for the government. Because truly there's nothing one can do when you don't have the wherewithal. All of the programs, all of the objectives that you may have, you cannot achieve it without money. And that is why, for me, the most important agency of government, it is those that are charged with the collection of our taxes. Yes, we have our 5 cardinal programs: education, health, agriculture that will lead us into industrialization, housing and urban renewal, and the one that we believe is very important to infrastructural development: roads, water, electricity, security, environment, and what have you. All of these programs, as good as they sound, we need money to achieve them. And the only way that is known to government is by taxes. And that is why, at any time, when we have opportunities of talking to ourselves, of interfacing with the people of Ogun State and even wherever we find ourselves, any government at that, it is the taxes that make the difference. If you see all of these foreign nations, of course you know that the only way they achieve all of these grandiose things that we talk about is because they have a very vibrant, and I repeat, very, very vibrant and effective tax system. So some of us that have the opportunity of having assets there, you know that you just must pay. Because without it, they cannot render those services. So I think this is another opportunity of interfacing with those that pays taxes for us as a government in Ogun State. And that is why I want to commend the JTB for their initiatives on this tax identification number. Indeed, for us in Ogun State, I think we have started this even before the JTB initiative. So we have our Ogun State tax identification number. It's like to create a database for all the taxpayers. The more we find so many people in the, we track so many people to the tax pool, the better for us. So I want to commend their efforts, and I want to quickly charge the chairman and members of the Ogun
State Internal Revenue Service that we should continue with making sure that we broaden the database of those that are eligible to pay our taxes. Because if we don't do that, we won't get the much needed money that the government needs, of course, to run its program. If you look at what we are doing, whether it's under education that we are providing textbooks, exercise books, educational material, paying tuition, paying wide fees, giving a scholarship, paying bursary, all of these things. It is the money that we collect from our people that we use for all of these projects. And every state that is what is taught should do everything humanly possible to make sure that they depend less on what comes from the central, that is from the federal government. And I'm happy to note, to tell our people that for the first time, and I think that was for the first time in Ogun State, we were able to get to the threshold of 3 billion, which is commendable. Yes.
Taxable members of the society, Governor Amoson gave a charge with respect to the successful takeoff and implementation of the TIN project.
With all of this, we cannot achieve without the cooperation of the good citizen of Ogun State. So I want to plead with you that when you see all these our tax officials in various different stations, when you see them, please, you can be rest assured that whatever money we collect, whatever taxes that is collected from you will be judiciously used. We have demonstrated that even in all facets, that bridge program be possible without the money that we collect from the taxpayers of Ogun State, the good people of Ogun State. If you see us doing anything, it is you that is actually doing it. We are just the vehicle that is being used to collect and to spend those money judiciously in the best interest of our people. On that note, let me commend the efforts and the initiatives, particularly of the staffers of the OGIRS. You have done well, particularly at the challenges that we have. The last time I came here and I said, if this is the headquarters, and even the road to the place is bad, so how? So that's why I say that all our tax stations, of course, our tax station must be conducive. If they are not, how can you do your job? So we will go make sure that all our tax stations, they are very conducive for you to make sure that you will be able to discharge your duties effectively well. Let me commend the efforts of the federal government, particularly the JTB. They are doing their bit well done. And I'm sure that it's going to be a collective effort. Nobody can do it alone. And let me thank the ICMA for what they are doing. Please, you need to improve on what you are doing. There's huge room for improvement. So I'm sure that everybody, even to our partners, either is it Tama, all of those people that helps us to collect our, but the one that's the most important are the staffers of the OGIRS.
And in recognition of its tax-friendly nature, the governor was appreciated by the management and staff of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, while he was equally presented with his tax clearance certificate for year 2012 as the #1 taxpayer in the state. The occasion also provided the governor with the opportunity of commissioning a fleet of new operational vehicles for the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, while the organization's remodeled Okemoson tax station, which creates an enabling environment for taxpayers, was equally commissioned by the governor.
Well, that's all we have for you on today's edition of the program. I'm sure you've been thoroughly educated as far as the taxpayer identification number scheme is concerned. The government of Ogun State is supporting other tax authorities in Nigeria
to ensure that everyone is indeed encouraged to register accordingly with the authorities of tax administration in Nigeria, so that we can have what is referred to as the taxpayer identification number, which will help us to access our tax accounts from any part of Nigeria and even beyond. That's what's going to be on today's edition of the program, and on behalf of the Ogun State government, on behalf of the Ogun State Internal Revenue Service, we want to appreciate you for the much you've done for the government of Ogun State, hoping strongly that you'll still be able to do much more for the government of Ogun State by paying your taxes and levies promptly. I am Adeshino Anidube, thanking you for the time you spent with us this afternoon. Bye for now.